What's my life? I'll have to clean windows.
Peter from Window Cleaning World here. Just to show you how our hose reels come. They come packaged like this in a kit. This is the Gemini hose reel, the metal Gemini. The instructions are very simple. It's a 10-minute job, no tools required. The hose will come coiled up like this, and once assembled it will look like this. There's 2 spare 12mm click clacks. They are going to be used for the lead hose, which we'll include, and you'll get some fittings, 2 fittings for the microbore hose. So this is how it will come. This will save us on freight and you on freight. Very easy to assemble, and you can take your time to uncoil this coil and assemble your hose reel. I'd like to quickly show you how to fit these 9mm, 8 to 9mm fittings on the Gardner microbore 8mm hose. It's a little bit tricky with the 8mm. It's dead easy with the 6mm, but it needs a trick or two to get these fittings on this hose. So when you receive this 100-meter coil from us, it's really important that you're careful with unrolling this. If you just start pulling on this, you'll end up with twists, which will then in use turn into kinks, and you really don't want kinks in your hose. So by always having the hose rolled up on a hose reel will ensure that you're not going to get kinks during work. So when you receive it, you want to really maybe go to a park, because it's a 100-meter length of hose where you can just unroll it this way like a wheel, so that you end up with a hose that's got no kinks or twists in it. What we're going to do here now is to show you how we get these fittings on, of which we have 2 types. The Clava fittings made in Italy. On the right here, on the left here, we have a stop. It says Aqua Stop, but you can tell by looking into it there's a white stop, and this one's the free flowing one. We tend to put this one on the outside, so that's the last fitting, so that you can retain the water in the hose reel if you wish. So the flow through one is going to be on the inside. That's the first one, so we're going to put this on here. Now, it's a very tight fit. It's very difficult to actually slide this cap on. So I'll show you how to do that. It's best to get a marker pen ready. And if you take the fitting apart and imagine that that's going to be screwed back together again, so you butt it up to these little stops here, and then hold the hose so that you know that the hose is going to be there, and if I then mark with my finger for now where it is going to line up with the edge of the fitting once it's assembled, I'm going to make a little mark with the pen. So now we need some hot water. And a little bit of soap, a drop of normal dishwashing soap on the barb, the male barb of this part of the fitting. So now we're going to soften the hose up by holding it in the water for a good 20 seconds, I say, so that it becomes softer and more pliable and easier to work with. Yeah, that's softening up nicely there. Now, I like to put a little bit of soap on here as well, just a bit, to help slide the collar over the hose. So we're going to slide this collar up to the line marking that we made up here. And you can see on the inside it comes up to the beginning of the thread. So in effect we're going to use the power of the thread to then jam that hose over this barb here. If you shove that on first, you probably won't get to the thread unless you're very strong, but there's always a danger of you cross-threading it here. So now we've got the hose in place at the correct depth. Push that on. And now I'm going to hold the hose and the collar tight and then I'm going to twist this part in. All the way in. I can see here from my mark that the hose has slipped a little bit. So now you want to test that it's not coming off. That's on firmly. So that's the trick on how to get the fitting on this 8mm hose. You won't have any sort of problems at all with the 6mm hose because it's not such a tight fit with the collar. They're very simple to put on. So there you have it. You can put the one on the inside as well, and then we can go on to uncoiling it out on the grass. We've got our 8mm microbore hose, 100 metre length. I'll show you how to unroll it so that you don't end up with kinks. So just like a wheel, make sure that you don't let the coil disintegrate. So hold it carefully with your hands and simply unroll it.
So let it slide. I'm a working man in my prime, cleaning windows. Number 36.
Ideally, you would do this in a park because as I was going up and down the yard here, you could see there's a twist. Now that is eventually going to turn into a kink unless we make sure, and this one here looks a bit sus. No, that should be okay. So I want to get rid of any kinks as best I can so that this hose is completely relaxed when it's rolled up without a single twist in it. You can see here there's quite a lot of hose. It's 100 metres. The big advantage is the weight. It's lighter, you'll fit more on a hose reel, and we're going to actually see now how much we can fit on the Gemini hose reel. So I'm going to grab the end and we're going to clip it securely into the inside male snap fitting, and then we're going to hold this with our hand and nice and neat and tidy. So you can see here we want to avoid the hose crossing over here, so we're going to give a bit of slack and tuck that in nicely, and then commence our second row over here. So I'm going to twist the hose reel a little bit here. I'm going to push it up as we go. I'm guiding it with my hand and having nice tidy wraps. And you can see it's got a beautiful balanced and smooth cranking action, which, by the way, it's left-handed. It's very easy to put the crank on the other side, so whichever way suits you, you can assemble it the way you like it. Just watch your fingers when you get to the edge that you don't get it caught in the holes, so slow it down. You get to the ends, you can speed it up again in the middle. There we have it. We've coiled up the 100 metres of 8mm hose, and as you can see there's plenty of room in this hose reel to add more hose. Now what we can supply you with is a lead hose so that you can go from your pure water system or straight to the tap to plumb in the hose reel that way. So that's your lead hose, which you can neatly coil up with a joiner. So we're actually going to go out there and have a look and see if we can fit another 50 metres of the Klaber Ultra Fort 12mm hose. This is a Gemini hose reel that has had 100 metres of the Ultra Fort 12mm hose, and I've taken 50 metres off it, which is up and down the yard, and we're going to see if we can fit that onto this hose reel that has the 100 metres of the 8mm hose. So we need a male joiner, which we can provide you with. Clip that on, and we'll start rolling this one in. There we have it. We've rolled 50 metres of the larger gauge 12mm hose on there, so I've got 150 metres of hose here, and there's enough room to add the lead hose to it. Now that's pretty full. I would suggest maybe putting 30 metres of this hose on, and you've got a little bit of room to put your pole hose on as well. And then everything's in one place. You just need the one hose reel. This really should be enough for you. Just want to make a few comments about packing up a hose reel. All of our hose reels will either have a tap fitting at the end or an aqua stop fitting. So if I turn the tap on here, nothing's coming out. It's an aqua stop fitting. If you use a normal male-male connector, you get flow coming out of there. Now, if you pack this hose reel up the way it is right now, it is going to be substantially heavier. So this hose reel, which was quite nice to lift before, it's a fair bit heavier. So you can imagine when that's in the vehicle and you're going over bumps, there's a lot more inertia and weight in the hose reel now than if it were empty. So if you want long life out of your hose reels and you don't mind wasting that little bit of pure water that is in the hose reel, I recommend before you travel from job site to empty the hose reel out. That is sometimes tricky, particularly if you're on flat level ground. But if there's even the slightest bit of slope, you just run the hose out and then start coiling it up with the hose reel at the highest point, and put one of these connectors in the end so that the water flows out of the hose. And that way you'll end up with an empty hose reel, which will be lighter to carry, and also there's less likelihood of your car getting wet if somehow there's a leak. One of your fittings is a bit old or something. Okay, so sometimes even though you've laid the hose out flat, a little bit of water can remain in the hose, and you can actually pump that water out.